I have a confession to make. I've never really played the Silent Hill games. I know for someone who is a huge fan of horror and video games, you'd think that I would have played them. Well, I own Silent Hill 2 on the PS2 and I did start it a couple times, but I could never get into it. The controls just have not aged well and it made it hard for me to get used to. I did try the game out again recently, in fact a couple weeks ago, and I died so early in the game that I gave up and vowed not to return again for a while. But I am very familiar with the idea of the games and I know that I'd like them if I gave them the chance, because the concept is incredibly creepy. An abandoned town full of fog with monsters roaming around. I love the idea, so I thought to introduce myself to the series I should watch the movie since it's only 2 hours long and gives me a basic idea of the concept. I heard a lot of people say that it's not only one of the most faithful video game adaptations ever, but also one of the only good ones too. So I finally gave it a watch and my honest opinion was it was okay. The only reason I kept this movie on the list of reviews was because video game adaptations have been a big part of modern horror movies, so I thought it would make sense to actually look at one that wasn't completely terrible. The film is about Rose and her husband Christopher, played by Rada, Michelle and Sean Bean. Their 9-year-old daughter Sharon has been sleepwalking through the town and shouting Silent Hill, so Rose decides that the only way to help her is to actually take her to Silent Hill, a pretty much abandoned town that was destroyed by a fire years prior. On their way there, a police officer called Sybil, who's played by Laurie Holden, starts to become suspicious of Rose and thinks that she may have kidnapped Sharon. Instead of stopping to talk to Sybil, Rose floors it and drives up to Silent Hill. However, their car crashes. When she awakens, Rose finds that Sharon is no longer in the car, so she ventures into the town to find her. The next 20 to 30 minutes of the film are really good. It's incredibly atmospheric and creepy. The monsters are terrifying. This is exactly what I not only expected, but also really wanted from this film. However, when she meets Sybil again, the film completely falls apart. The idea of Rose going through the town to find her daughter and being chased and attacked by these monsters could have made for a fantastic horror movie, but they tried to cram in loads of story and mythology and the film ends up going from pretty scary to just boring. They meet a woman called Anna who helps them get to a church where there is a large cult that have been staying in there. The rest of the film I basically just stopped caring about what was happening. It just goes from being slow in a good way to being slow in a boring way. I have no problem with them adding mythology into the movie. In fact, finding out about Alessa, the girl who was ritually burned, was actually really interesting. Don't get me wrong, the story is not bad at all, it's just I felt the execution wasn't the best. What made the film good and scary were the long stretches of silence and atmosphere. Not knowing what is out there and what could pop out at any second made the film incredibly tense and scary. I actually really like these parts of the movie, and from what I have played of Silent Hill 2, these seem to be the parts of the movie that are closest to being like the game. However, towards the end, I felt the film really just started to fall apart and became too actiony. The film goes on way too long. There are a lot of things that were unnecessary and could have been cut out. Sean Bean's plot, for example, and by plot I mean the 5 minutes spread out across the whole film where we see him. His character was added in at the last second because there were no male characters in the film, and you can definitely tell, he feels really out of place. Maybe if we'd only seen him at the beginning and maybe the end as well, it would have been better. But enough of what I don't like. What is good about the movie that I haven't already talked about? The visual style is absolutely fantastic. This movie looks beautifully dark. The set designs all look amazing too. The look of the movie really helps build up the atmosphere. When the film is scary, it's really good, and I found myself enjoying the film quite a bit. But the plot starts to become very jumbled and convoluted. The half of the story is about a woman trying to find her daughter in an evil town, but that seems to be overshadowed by the hundreds of different things happening. There are multiple fan edits out there that cut the movie down by half an hour, removing all the unnecessary things and making the film not only feel more tense, but also closer to the original games. So I definitely will have to check one or two of the edits out. In 2012, a sequel called Silent Hill Revelation was made. I haven't seen the sequel and don't plan on seeing it either. The film was universally panned, receiving a 5% on Rotten Tomatoes. Overall, Silent Hill is not a bad movie at all. In fact, it's one of the best video game adaptations ever made. I definitely recommend watching it, but it's got a lot of problems because of it. I didn't really find myself liking a lot of the movie. I give it a 6.5 out of 10.